There's a quorum present, so we can proceed. We'd like to thank the Chester County Middle School and the principal for hosting us tonight. And we'll go on to our first item on the business tonight, the recommendation to accept the board agenda. I'm not sure.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the board agenda and previous discussion. None, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, so the agenda is for tonight and begin.
I just realized that Stacy gave me another federal project budget amendment. This came out as a late this week. It is a fiscal pre-monitoring support grant that we can receive. It is a support with a third party to help us manage the fiscal side of ESSER. So it's something that we need to include in the consent agenda. So I apologize, I just realized that.
President for local. Anyone have any questions on this? All right, there are no questions. We will add this amendment to the consent agenda. We will bring one form in. Motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. There will be no discussion on that. Favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Consent agenda is approved. There have been no delegations to ask to present or address the board tonight, so we move right to our spotlight section. We're excited to hear about all the great things happening at Chester County Middle School. And
okay, it's an opportunity for me to turn this over to I am going to announce that Dr. Melissa Judd is here too. In fact, she's here with Mr. Tommy Porter. Okay, everybody, make sure you're sitting there, Miss. Both of them are administrators, and I'm turning over to them for not only the spotlight of what we've already been impressed with Kid Congress, but also new staff that we want to recognize.
So Mr. Kilzer challenged me to find some things about Chester County Middle School to spotlight. And that's an easy job. We are loaded down with outstanding staff, brilliant students, and people that just have fantastic hearts. Narrowing it down was a little bit more challenging, but today I have 3 individuals that I want to spotlight who are just incredibly special to the school and go a long way to making it function and work. And then after that, I want to spotlight our amazing students who are part of our Kid Congress. First person I want to spotlight is our school nurse, Ms. Tammy Bashirs. If she would, please stand up. If you can't already understand why she's worth recognizing, then you've been under a rock for the last 2 years. COVID has rocked our world. The CDC, the Tennessee Department of Health, has changed guidelines almost by the minute. And she has had to stay on top of it every step of the way. She's had to stay on top of what quarantine is, what it isn't. Can we quarantine? Do we mask? Do we not mask? She's made all the phone calls to parents that don't want to hear that news. She's dealt with the parents that have really voiced strongly, we don't want to take that news. She's been told she has to test people and all of those different changes that have happened. She has never complained. She has faced the challenge head on. She's met it, and she's kept our staff and our students as safe as humanly possible. And for that, I want to make sure the board recognizes her and that those in attendance also recognize this wonderful woman for the hard work and the extra work she's done for the past 2 years. So Ms. Tammy Bashirs, thank you very much, ma'am. On that same note is a rock star, Miss Dawn. And that's how she is affectionately known here at the middle school. She is the chief, she is the captain, she is the El Presidente of our kitchen staff. and she runs a tight ship, and she makes sure our babies are fed a good breakfast and a good lunch every single day. She is the first person in our building in the morning, and she gets here and she starts getting these ovens going, and there has never been a time where she hasn't been able to come through for our students to make sure that they are well fed and ready to learn every single day. With COVID, there's also been challenges that have come there, and she's had to jump through some extra hoops, and she's had to help send meals home. You remember when COVID first happened and we had to send babies home? She was here making meals and getting that stuff sent out. And so there's so many extra things that she's done, and we rarely celebrate the kitchen staff and those who make those meals and make sure our babies' bellies are full, especially knowing some of them don't have a third meal of the day, and that all of their nourishment and their food comes from this cafeteria. And so for that reason, I want to make sure the board recognizes her, and that you recognize her. And if you see her in the street, if you see her at a family function, if you see her anywhere in town, that you just stop and say, thank you for doing what you're doing, because it means so much to this school and to this community. So she is not here now, but if we could give another round of applause for Ms. Dawn. And lastly, but certainly not least, Miss Michelle Caskell. Miss Michelle McCaskill, please stand, ma'am. I mean this with every ounce of sincerity I have in my heart. She could be Teacher of the Year every single year. She has a tough job, and she works with the babies that have the most need in this building. She's been bitten, she's been spit on, she's changed diapers, she's done all of the things that most folks would run from. She runs to, and she helps those babies that need the most help, and she makes sure they know they're loved and they're cared for and they're respected and they are people, and they will be seen and they will be heard and they'll be loved while they're here. She does that for them in a society that doesn't always treat them right. And I love her for that. And she doesn't get recognized nearly enough for the job that she does day in and day out. But when Mr. Kilzer said spotlight somebody, I could not do this without giving her the recognition that she needs and deserves. And so I appreciate you, ma'am. And I want to recognize you before our board and for our parents, the job that you do every single day. Thank you, Ms. Michelle. I also want to recognize our special students, Kid Congress members. Before I get to them, I want to recognize the teacher whose baby this is. Ms. Rebecca Lawrence, 2 years ago, sent me an email. Says we need to get some type of student government here at the middle school. It hasn't been here, and it's a shame. We need to do something about that. She says it's time that our students realize that they have a voice that is important and needs to be heard, and we need to give them an avenue and a channel for that to happen. And I said, you're absolutely right. You're in charge of it. And she, as well as some amazing teachers, all of the newbies that came on this year, I said, you are on this as well. And if you all could please stand. That is Miss Casey Blackwell. This is Mrs. Marley Sullivan. This is Miss Rebecca Lawrence. And the one and only Miss Shay Dean Wilson have come together and made sure our Kid Congress could get off the ground and help it become what it can be eventually. Kid Congress is our small introduction to student government. We have some words that we live by, that we try to ingrain into these students so that they can live it out and help the remaining students in our building come to know these words and the importance of them. Courage, kindness, gratitude, self-worth, growth, and grit. These are words that we strive to exemplify through all of them. And every month we have a different word that we challenge our student body with, living up to. And our students in Kid Congress will elect a certain student in their class who has personified that word of the month the most. And that student becomes our Eagle Ninja of the month, and they get a yard sign, and they get to show off and brag to all the folks in the neighborhood. That's my kid right there. So they get to do that. But something else that they've done is they've laid the foundation for Kid Congress for years to come. And in this very room, we sat down with all the members of Kid Congress, and we worked out our very own Constitution. And today we're asking if the board would recognize this Constitution, if you all would sign this Constitution and make it official that we can have this document created by the students, for the students of Chester County Middle School, be recognized by our fantastic school board. And so at this time, who is going to read our Constitution?
We, the students of Chester County Middle School, agree to form a corporate union, establish a safe learning environment, ensure everyone has a voice, provide for all the students and staff, promote gratitude and growth, secure the rights of the Chester County Middle School family, do ordains and establish this Constitution for our school.
At this time, Lance, could you come and present this to our board?
How is this stuff?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Take it up from Mr. Henderson. I want to make sure our students that are present today realize the history that's been made. It's the very first Constitution written for Chester County Middle School.
Mr. Kirk, what did you say?
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion that we accept this document as. We got a motion on the floor to actually accept it and recognize this Constitution. Is there a second? All right, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor of this recognition, say aye. Aye. Be opposed. So.
Thank you all very much. Yes, sir.
Thank you again to Mr. Kirk. All the staff here present, appreciate all of you. The big comments, anyone, before we move on.
I would ask that all the middle school staff, please stand, because not everybody has been recognized, and I see several of them here. Thank you.
All right, we do have a short order of business to handle here on our agenda tonight as well. And that is the recommendation from our policy committee. Maybe that Section 5, school board policy. Talk about what
Okay, from the meeting that we had on February the 10th, Mark Griffin, Becky Hutchinson, Thomas Leach, and myself met reviewing the section 5, which deals with personnel. That's why Thomas was included as his role for each part. And of that conversation, the policies that begin with the number 5 are policies that he recommended for revision that are currently in our handbooks or in our policy manual, but needs a little bit of tweaking to further clarify.
Those policies have been included in our package for each school board member. If any of you have any questions to these specific policies that we not approve the policy changes as one whole. Separately, if there are no questions, there are motion that we, where we go, need motion that came from the committee, so no motion is required. Is there any discussion of it? All right, if there's no discussion, is there a motion to approve the section 5 policy? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the last thing we have tonight, I think the updates, that our school system, so bring up, the board might have a question.
Well, included in your packet was a reference to some of the new learning that we've received from our own state government. There was a state of the state address that Governor Lee offered on the 31st of January. And in that, he offered his recommendations for a proposed budget for education, public ed at $52.6 billion. That's another billion in addition to what he is currently being budgeted with. He has got a balanced budget, and I assume that it will be approved within that budget. That would be applicable to us is that 125 million of new dollars, recurring dollars, will be devoted to teacher salary raises. So in our preparation for that for the 22-23 school year, we're already reflecting that raise or a raise in our salary line items for SOAR 2.0. So we've already reflected that. We suspect that there will be a new minimum salary for a bachelor's with 0 experience. So we're a little bit above that in our as we're beginning the process of developing our full budget. You'll be seeing that more as we get closer to that April estimate that we'll have from the state BEP. This will be expected the last official basic education program for the BEP or for funding. Starting in 24, they're offering a new funding plan called TISA. And in that funding stream, it's not going to be a resource-based like the BEP is. It's going to be student-based. And every student will come in with a certain level or base number that will be attributed to that student. And then there'll be additional add-ons depending on, for one, whether or not the student qualifies for free reduced lunch. 2, whether they have any disabilities or learning difficulties. 3, could be with where we are as a rural setting, because rural school districts spend more money in certain areas as compared to comparable suburbans or urban settings. And then there are some other performance measures that are included, like the scores on their TCAP, scores on the EOC, the number of ready graduates at the high school level, those who go through a CTE program and complete or score a certain threshold score on their ACT. There's still a lot of what does that look like? That's supposed to be the governor's office announced today that on the 24th of this month, there will be another press conference with the governor and Penny Swin, our commissioner of ed. And I believe at that setting, they're going to give us the meat on the bones. They're going to tell us what it's going to actually look like so that we can get prepped for that. Again, this is just the state component. What we still don't know is what the local contribution will have to be. We know from the BEP how that is structured because we've had that for over 20 years. But there's still a lot of questions about how that local contribution is going to be tagged with this new student-based funding for it. So, yet to be seen, but it's the 24th.
Any other updates?
You did say the 125 million for teachers was reoccurring.
It's recurring, and it's starting this upcoming fiscal year, not 24, this is 23.
Any other questions or comments on other days? Is there anything else that you want me to bring up? Sure. If not, we've come to the end of our agenda. So again, we appreciate being hosted here graciously by Chester County Middle School. And with that, this meeting, school board is adjourned.